Tayo Cruz, that's Dynamite on the Morning Buzz on KLIR 101. It is 7:08 now, and time for a closer look at KLIR's community. My guest this morning, I have Chip Kay from Columbus Public Schools, and he is the finance guy. So we are going to be talking about the bond issue coming up for Columbus Public Schools. So good morning to you.
Good morning, Riley. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So we're going to be talking money, which I think is probably the number one thing that people usually kind of look at when we're bringing something like this to the public.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. With bond issues, it's how does it affect me? Usually there's always data there to show the need. But how are you approaching that lift for stakeholders? There's usually the most confusion with the finance part. So, over the last 18 months of working with stakeholder groups and working through a lot of recommendations to solve our growing district, the data finally all came together in February. We have only worked with an estimator from Boyd Jones. One of the most important things for our group, our school, was to have a realistic number. We didn't just take a dart and throw it at the dartboard and come up with a number. So the estimators from Boyd Jones were very critical. So that once the stakeholders prioritized the projects that needed to be done, we had an accurate number. And so that number is $53.5 million. And that can cause sticker shock, as we talked a little bit when I first came in, that when somebody looks at that, that seems like a lot of money, and $53.5 million is. But it will address a lot of the overcrowding that the district has. 10 years ago, when you do projections, when you have someone come in to do that, they give their best guess based on the data. Columbus has overachieved. They've exceeded that data, and so we did another one here in spring of 2022. We're hoping that data will work, but we're not going to work beyond the 29-30 school year. We found there's just a lot of unpredictability in growth, and like we talked when I first came in, it seems like things often didn't change over a 10-year span many moons ago, and we now live in a society with mobility, and things can change very quickly in 10 years.
I have to say, when I saw the projected cost, which again is $53 million, but with all that we're planning on doing, I thought it was really a good price because there's a lot of things that are on the board.
There is, and they're good projects. The elementary, and we're overcrowded. We have buildings that have 4 tracks or 4 teachers per grade level that were built for 3. And so, the project's the new K4 elementary. Then we'll add some classroom space, 5th grade only wing at the middle school, which again, that growth is going to move its way through the district. It's also going to be some cafeteria remodeling at a couple of the elementaries. It's going to be a gymnasium at a couple elementaries and cafeteria work at the middle school. And then, one of the pushes of Governor Pillen is developing a workforce. And, at Columbus, we see a lot of our students come back. And so our career pathway programs at the high school are vital to our community workforce, and we're getting more and more opportunities to partner with, like, the hospital to do a career pathways in health. Well, they're providing the teacher, we have to provide the space. And so to continue doing that, this project also includes 4 classrooms at the high school to give that space. And then, we have a lot of students that need a non-traditional setting for learning, and so there's going to be an opportunity for an expanded learning program, and that would go where the current administrative offices are. So, when you talk about $53.5 million, I know that seems like a lot to people, but it's covering a lot of remodeling, some additions, new construction, and the sticker shock for most people is, what's that going to do to my taxes?
Yeah, what's the bottom line? How does it affect me?
How does it affect me? And because we've been fortunate enough to be a district, and my predecessors, Mr. Page and Mr. Mielek, because this is only my 3rd year in the district, have done a great job with finances. And so there was refinancing of the 2012 bond, which included, in 2012, there was a refinancing of the 1999 bond. Now, that 1999 bond was the last time an elementaries really had been worked on. That was Emerson being built and Centennial being built. So that was refinanced in 2012 and then paid off in this last December, 2022. When I came, we refinanced the high school project. We pulled out the funds that were used for the middle school. We're paying them off by next December, 15 years early. refinancing then the remainder of that high school bond has lowered our payment and given us some room to be able to address potential projects. So that means that for a taxpayer, our levy is going to go up 4.8 cents. That's $48 a year on a $100,000 home, or $4 a month per $100,000. We certainly understand that there is no easy amount of money, and we certainly understand that $4 to $12 a month to $20 a month could be an impact for a lot of our stakeholders. But the goal of the project was to accomplish the needs of a growing community, of a growing school district, and do our best to not make it a heavy fiscal lift for our stakeholders.
And I was telling the people here a story about how my husband actually was looking at this whole thing and like, well, it's going to be a lot. And how's it going to affect me? And then he looked at what the actual cost was, which is, again, $4 per $100,000 per month. And he's like, that's really not bad. We can do that. So it's not when you think about it.
It isn't, and we get a lot of questions like, well, what is it going to be down the road? Mm-hmm. Well, this is the most it's going to be. It's going to be our levy next year. If the bond issue passes, our levy will be $1.27. What's our levy going to be the next year? $1.27 or lower. Mm-hmm. What's it going to be the next year? Well, $1.27 or lower. Typically, when you have a bond, that's the highest it ever is, because if our community grows 100 new homes in the next year or two, that increases the community valuation, that spreads out the responsibility, that lowers everybody else's tax asking. So there's a lot of those things that occur. We will take out the bonds in $10 million increments if it passes. We do that for two reasons. We can get more competitive interest rates. The other thing is, at $10 billion increments, they're callable in 5 years, which means we can refinance them with very little arbitrage. And I hate to throw out a word like that where most users are going, okay, stop it. But the bottom line for that means we've got the flexibility to renegotiate, to refinance, to get a better interest rate. And ultimately, that's what we want to do for our stakeholders, because in Nebraska, it's their responsibility for capital improvement of school districts. We're not Iowa, we're not Wyoming. They have other ways to do capital improvement. In Wyoming, they have a fund each school can draw from their natural resources sales, and they can build new buildings. In Nebraska, we have to do it through a bond election. We have to do it through taking out bonds. We have to do it through our stakeholders.
All right, we are going to keep Chip K here, and we'll talk more about the Columbus Public Schools bond issue coming up on the Morning Buzz on KLIR 101. Macy Gray, that's Blue on KLIR 101. It's 7:23. We are back with Community Spotlight. My guest is Chip K. We are talking about the Columbus Public Schools bond issue. So one of the things that I've really found encouraging is the fact that the school district really has been extremely fiscally responsible in the past with these buildings growth bond issues, retiring things early. That's very encouraging.
Well, it's important. Our job is to be the best stewards of the finances for the community, for our school. And, our focus is educating all of our students, and we have to have the facilities to do it, but we don't want all of our funds tied up in facilities. We're hitting a pretty steady growth cycle, and that good fiscal management in the past has put us in a position to be able to address those needs, and like we talked about, minimal impact to stakeholders at $4 a month per 100,000 valuation of your home.
So people always have questions, and they have lots of opportunities to get those questions answered. You guys will come just about anywhere at any time to talk.
Yeah, that's true. So Dr. Lafaholtz and I have been asked to speak at a lot of different community organizations. Sometimes it's a men's coffee. Sometimes it's a women's wine group. I found out there's a difference. And, of course, we're doing Sundays with the superintendent. Our first one is tonight at West Park.
7 p.m.
7 p.m. You get a free Sunday just to have to listen to Dr. Lafaholtz. So that's not a bad trade-off. But our goal, Riley, ultimately is just to get the facts out there. We trust that through all of this, our community has continue to give us permission to keep gathering more information. Our stakeholder groups have given us permission to approach our school board about doing a bond. And so we just want to keep getting the facts out in front of them and allow them to make an educated decision. And that would be the one message I would want to get through is, be sure you get your questions answered. We have a great website that has all the facts. You can go to our school website, which is columbuspublicschools.org, and there's a link to get to the facts side of this. And I also know a community group that's been formed called Vote Yes for CPS has also put together a website with, some of their thoughts on the bond. So there's a lot of ways to get information. You can invite us. You can come to the Sundays. You can get it on the web. We just want to get the facts out there for our stakeholders.
And one thing that you should be watching for is that ballot to be coming to you in the mail.
So we're doing a mail-in election, and from what I understand is that's uncharted territory for the city of Columbus. And so if you are a stakeholder in the Columbus Public Schools district, so that's not going to be everybody who's going to receive one. You'll receive a mail-in ballot sometime between April 17th and April 22nd. And there's some specific instructions about completing your ballot and signing it correctly, sealing it correctly, and then you'll be able to return mail it back. There'll also be drop box locations. You can always take it to the courthouse. One of the questions I think I've already received is why mail-in? And the number one thing is it's a single question special election. And the push from the state level is those should be mail-in ballots, not polling place. I will also tell you that there's a definitive cost difference. A mail-in election is about half the cost of doing a polling place. And so mail-in elections have been used in special elections across the state. Just so happens when I was superintendent at Shelby Rising City, the bond election we did at the same time Columbus was doing theirs was a mail-in election. That was how the two counties wanted to do it. So the big thing for everybody is when the ballot comes on between the 17th and 22nd of April, make sure you read the instructions, cast your vote. It has to be in the election office by 5 p.m. on May 9th.
So takeaway here is get educated, watch for the ballot, go and have an ice cream sundae tonight with Superintendent Lawful-Holtz. That is, again, at West Park at 7 p.m. And Chip K., thank you so much for coming in this morning.
Yeah, thank you, really. I appreciate it.
All right, stay tuned. Coming up, we'll have news on KLIR 101.